everywhere. And if we go to the income tab, you've now fallen very behind in worker count, and now you're putting them up on Immortal Ridge. That's kind of funny. I'll copyright that if you don't mind. And there's the proxy pylon. It's a little far back for my taste. I'd rather see it up here. Protoss is expanding a little bit after the pressure of his attack has faded. But here he comes in again, but your Hydralisks are in an entirely secure spot. Your Overseer does see that, which is marvelous. I'm going to keep an eye on this Overseer on the minimap. Here comes this attack. This is getting a little greedy on Protoss this part, but it's going to do a little bit of damage. However, I don't think it's actually going to even up. He does catch your Zealot there. Well, your Changeling, that was the Zealot. He did snap a Spine Crawler, which is good for him. You do need to continue building those, even if you do lose them, because you have to have them at this point. Your Queens are up here for defense, which is where they don't need to be, however. They need to be on your hatchery, spawning larvae all the time, so your actual combat units can be fighting. However, because you don't have enough combat units, because you built 2 tech buildings, because you went 2 hatchery, because you went fast lair, because you went 10 pull, see the chain of events I'm just doing here? This isn't all for fun and games, this is a chain all the way up to this point. Because of those series of decisions, you have to be behind in economy by an atrocious amount. And it's because you're behind right now in economy, you're behind in everything else, and every second this is true. It's a compounding fatal mistake. I don't like saying mistake in that situation because mistake implies you did something wrong, and personally I don't feel any decision was wrong as long as there was a purpose to it. That said, I think this attack was wrong. This Protoss attack was wrong because he wanted to scout, I hope. This could have been much easier accomplished by anything else. Also, Changelings. If you're going to lay a Changeling, use the damn thing. It's just going to sit here until it dies. I've watched it. Now you're moving out with a competent army. You're going to absolutely crush this. He's in fact going to blink backwards. Awesome. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you. We're 13 minutes in the game. There's 20 minutes left of this game to go through. And you don't change your strategy at all. You have no transitions, period. Nothing. Nada. If this Protoss took his gameplay to the next level, past the High Templar, you would have been crushed. But because your opponent makes the same mistake, he stops transitioning at the exact step you do, which is tier 2 in my opinion, he fails. Yes, I consider High Templar tier 2. Simply because there should be a game after High Templar. But now we've sort of cooled down on all the little things we can nitpick anybody on. This Overlord was fantastically placed, even though it did die. It was keeping an eye on this. Better place to put it would have been right here, though, or here, just anywhere along this ridge, because you can monitor the ridge and also be hidden from sight. Just a little thing you can mention there. We're going to ignore this attack, and the same Overlords apply here and pretty much everywhere else. Going back to this attack. Being caught in this ridge is a terrible place to be, but because Protoss's tech was slow, because he's not using Chrono Boost, it's going to be successful. In any other scenario, it would not have been if Protoss had not been bad. So we're going to stop watching this attack because it is essentially over. We're going to go back here where you should be looking. By you should be looking, I mean you're not actually looking. You're producing using hotkeys, great. But what about your queens here? They're not doing anything. We'll go ahead and give you my hatchery queen combo setup, just so you at least have something to work with. I prefer all my hatcheries on 5, so I can just go 5 as whatever I want. Then 6 main base queen, 7 natural base queen, 8 third base queen, 9 fourth base queen, and occasionally I'll hit 5 bases, which is 0 queen. And yes, I do very regularly hit 4 bases, and it pains me every time I see a Zerg not doing 4 bases. And speaking of 4 bases, we'll go ahead and hit on this now while I have the games paused. I did mention that this poor Overlord was in a correct position in that it was scouting here. Better position for it would be here. We'll go ahead and reiterate that. But all these other Overlords are in a bad spot. All of them. And it's for one simple reason. Overlords are your perfect God's given scout. This is because you're not going to ever not build them. They fly. They are pretty damn fast after their speed upgrade. And they're relatively easy to replace. Yes, they cost 100 minerals. Yes, they cost a larva. Yes, it's a pain to replace them when you lose them. But use them. They're the only unit in the Zerg arsenal that very rarely sees combat. And it makes me sad because of that. They don't have weapons, but by seeing combat, I mean actually seeing combat. Literally looking at the map. Basically, Zerg has the legal map hack. And that's what it is when you have an Overlord spread. You can know exactly what's going on the map everywhere, all at the same time. And you're not necessarily looking at where the other guy is, but more where he is not. Like, if you had an Overlord at each of the bases or along the periphery of the map here, you wouldn't need to know where Protoss has expanded, because you would know where he hasn't expanded. We'll go ahead and mention that I love this. I myself don't do this, and I nix myself for that quite frequently, which is adjusting where your spine crawlers are so they are continue effectiveness, grabbing this third base. Personally, I find the timing awkward, just because no event was there to trigger putting it down other than, hey, nothing's happened for a little while, so let's do this. There should always be something happening. Like, you put this base down, now you're under attack. What if you had 6 more Hydralisks in this ball here? I think you'd be a little bit more comfortable in this fight. And by 6, I was doing... Oh, wait, I was looking at Red's resources. Haha. My error. So, you in fact went broke to build this. Or perhaps you didn't. I was looking at the wrong person's resources. Nidus Worms are hit or miss. Because they really depend on your opponent being an idiot. And I know they do work here, but we'll go ahead and review the idiot part, because he sees this, and he's just not watching the minimap. Now he sees it, but it's too late. And now he's poking your base, and you leave it standing, which I do like. But you're splitting up your forces, which is kind of good, kind of bad. Kind of bad because all this just got destroyed. Kind of good because you need something to fend this off. So really, what you should have done, rather than doing this little number with a Nidus Worm, you should have gone, destroyed this, and then Nidus Wormed. Just one step at a time. We'll go ahead and do something academia for a second. Many people say that StarCraft is the game of multitasking, or at least that's what I hear my friends talk about a lot in our StarCraft circle at college. It is not the game of multitasking, because it's more one set of tasks. Like, well, I kind of lost my train of thought for a second. Multitasking, as most people describe it, is doing many different things all at the same time. But what you should be doing is executing a series of tasks efficiently, one right after another. So rather than doing this Nidus Worm trick and defending, you should have been defending, then Nidus Worm trick, then kicking his face in on the front door, then back on defense.